Pittsburgh Steeler fans, know it all nation. Thanks for tapping in, rocking with your boy Tate for this noontime Tate's Take on a Wednesday afternoon. Coming at you today just to talk some Steeler stuff. We took a BTA the other day, Sunday night against the Green Bay Packers. Though you can take away some positives from the first half. Obviously, none from the second half. I believe they were outscored 25-3, I believe, something like that. But before we get into that, let's just take a second, say how you guys doing on this Wednesday. What's going on with you? Either you at home, you at work, perhaps on a lunch break, whatever you're doing. Thanks again for tapping into the Know It Alls podcast with some of this great Steeler content we got going on. And we'll be back at it this evening. Myself, the homie Big G, the homie Kurt. Man, these jokers been going back and forth. And I got the chat messages and text messages to prove it, man. These jokers been acting like 10-year-old third graders in the playground arguing back and forth. So that's why tonight's show, we're gonna have the great debate between G and Curb. We're gonna talk about what's next. We know they made a couple moves. MVS is not in the building. I don't know if he's gonna come in the building. I don't know what's going on with him. We signed Kyle Duggar. I believe that to be a straight heads-up move to replace Deshaun Elliott's position and production on the field as far as a run-stuffing physical safety. I like that pickup to get him and for flopping a 6.47. I think it's good value. He's under contract, but they can get out of it next year if they want. So we'll see what that looks like. I think it was necessary because they obviously don't believe in and personally, I like the addition of Chuck Clark in the preseason. I think Chuck Clark's a good player. I think he's a little long in the tooth, slow in coverage. He's a physical player, has the right mindset, the right mentality, I believe, but need to limit his exposure. He don't need to be on the field in obvious passing situations. You know, you can mix him in to give some guys a break on rundowns and stuff like that, perhaps, but you need to limit his exposure. He doesn't need to be on the field in passing situations. Juan Thornhill, I think Juan Thornhill is okay in coverage if he gets his assignments right, but if you can't get your assignments right, then you can't be on the field, Juan. Not put all the blame on him because I think he's a capable safety. I think he'll see time, especially in pass coverage, but he clearly misplayed that long play Sunday night to Christian Watson where he perhaps could have had an interception. Who knows what the game looks like if that happens. Deshaun Elliott was beat by Tucker Kraft, the tight end. I think Elliott didn't get the pass interference, but Tucker Kraft clearly pushed off also. Not making excuses. I mean, he got beat. I feel like both those throws were kind of lucky. I mean, they made the play. I mean, probably 8 times out of 10, those throws are interceptions going the other way. Didn't happen for the Steelers. Nothing really broke our way. And we're going to talk about the coaching aspect of it. That's what this show is about. We're just, kind of talking right now, waiting for some people to join us. What else did I take away from the game? Cam Hayward alluded to after the game that the team doesn't handle adversity well. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. No, I do agree with that. I mean, that's what Big G's been saying to the players. Because the Steelers aren't running just the same thing every time and getting figured out. They can be predictable. They like what they like to do. I don't disagree there, but they're mixing up what they like to do. So it's not completely predictable. I'm trying to send myself a voice note I want to upload here so I can play it. But yeah, I don't think it's completely predictable. But yeah, they have to be better, have to do better Mike Tomlin talked about a lot of this in his press conference yesterday. Tomlin's never going to throw anyone under the bus. It's not his style. I think he says plenty of stuff in the locker room that doesn't get out into the public sphere, not even in his press conferences. He indirectly talks to the team via the press conference. I think keeps his messaging the same. He wouldn't throw TA under the bus. I think it's been clarified that TA is the play caller. I mean, the Steelers do it the old school way, right? As far as defensively, from a game planning perspective. Defensive coaches meet. You got TA, you got defensive line, linebackers, secondary coaches, they meet. They formulate a game plan, what they think will work against this individual opponent for the coming weekend. And from there, they come up with a scheme, a plan, and stuff like that. And TA is free to call the game. Now, Tomlin can go ahead and intervene at any time. That's what the head coach does. But if you're watching the sideline, TA has the iPad. He has the note card, the cardboard with the play calls on it, and he's clearly calling the game. I'm sure Tomlin's in his headset, he can hear what's going on, so he obviously, doesn't disagree with whatever play call TA might be calling. But I think there's a multitude of things on the defense. I think I mentioned Chuck Clark. I mentioned Juan Thornhill. I think that Darius Slay. We were hoping, and the homie Triple OG Shannon White said that we'll be on Pump Your Brakes tonight also. Shannon said, and he said this early on, he hopes Slay, just hope Slay isn't washed. D Slay might be washed. I mean, they paid him $10 million, get off that next year. I think you have to change personnel. We're gonna see different. I believe we're gonna see different things. And the Steelers are different, right? We clamored all last year about do something different, be more aggressive. The Steelers blitz at a high rate. They send 5 or 6 a lot at the quarterback, which is why they're getting beat in the secondary. Perhaps they need to play more zone. Once they send those blitzes and don't hit, they don't get home, creates, gap opportunities for the opponent's run game. Opponents have been taking advantage of that also. I mean, so there's just a plethora of things that the Steelers defense can fix, need to fix, and hopefully will fix. And this week we play a tough opponent. We play the number 1 team in the NFL. I believe the last team with one, not the last team with 1 loss. Green Bay has 1 loss. And to be honest with the Steelers win that game, when you went into halftime, you were completely satisfied with the Steelers being up 16-7. And I believe they got the ball back. It started going bad as soon as the second half started, and they were 3 and out. And then from there, it was all downhill in the second half. But if they can replicate kind of some of the stuff they did in the first half, and I like playing the toughest team, right? I mean, Steeler fan through and through. My personality is to be aggressive, be the aggressor, bring the noise, that kind of stuff. And what a perfect opportunity, right? You go from playing you got the only 2 one lost teams in the NFL back to back. So huge measuring stick. This one probably matters more because it's the next one, and because it's an AFC, it's the AFC game against the number 1 team in the AFC. So plenty of opportunity there. We'll see what the Steelers defense does this week. We got to get more from the players. All players. I think, like I said, Darius Slay is perhaps washed. I mean, maybe you can use him in his strengths when you play in zone coverage and stuff. Put him in. He needs to face quarterback. He's not a one-on-one man cover, can run. He's 34 years old. And like I said, Shannon said, we were afraid that he could be washed. He's washed. Chuck Clark is up there. He's a step slower. We brought Chuck Clark in solely because of the trade of Minkah Fitzpatrick when we needed the safety, and he fits the Steelers' DNA. Former Baltimore Raven guy, tough guy, great football character, football mentality. I like what he does from that perspective. But yeah, coverage, Chuck. Sorry, Chuck. Get out of here. Far as coverage. But no, so I'm thinking that the Steelers, maybe some things they can fix. I want to, like I said, we're not getting enough from Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen is stealing money as of now. He's never panned out yet. He had a few good games. He's a good player, I believe, but he hasn't been to the Steelers what we thought he would be to this point. To this point, Patrick Queen, you got to be better. Peyton Wilson actually played a good game. If you can play a good game in that second half of that defense look, but he wasn't at fault Wednesday for his efforts. Clearly, the secondary, the lack of a rush, but when the opposing quarterback is getting the ball off in under 2.5 seconds, there's not much of an opportunity for a rush. I do think that schematically, if you're going to play man, and you might not want to play man, but you at least need to play some form of bump and run. You need to throw receivers off their route. You got these physical corners, at least in Joey Porter Jr. I look to see more Corey Trice. The Steelers could make a move. I believe Kyle Duggar, if he gets the defense down this week, he'll be inserted into the starting lineup just because he's that physical box safety that can make tackles and play make. He didn't have much opportunity in New England this year. They're kind of going young. Vrabel's kind of bringing in his guys right away. So, he kind of he was a team captain in New England at one point. He kind of lost his favor with the new coaching staff. They're going young. I believe they're playing 2 rookies. So he was like the third safety in New England, but he could potentially be a player. When free agency was up on us, I wanted the Steelers to try and get him. Back then, I sold it to homie Triple OG Shannon White because he was that physical safety. And it might have been the year before they got Deshaun Elliott too. I was pleased with Deshaun Elliott, but he's hurt. Hopefully he can be back towards the latter part of the season for a playoff run. Hopefully. We'll see. I believe the starting safeties will need to be some form of Duggar in the box, Kyle Duggar in the box, and a rotation of Thornhill and Jabril Peppers at the free safety, depending on situational play calls. Obvious passing situations, I think you want the range and speed of Thornhill. Potential running downs, 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6. You might want Peppers in the game to bring that added element of physicality, who can still play a free safety. And him and Duggar have a rapport from playing with the Patriots together, so the communication aspect could be okay with them. Could get up to speed faster if that's your duo versus putting players in that haven't really played together. So I'm looking anxious to see what happens with that. Let's shout out some of you in the live chat that's joined us. We've been around for about 10 minutes now. Let's see who's out here in these Steelers streets. Afton in the building. Shout out Afton, Chat General, part of the Know It All crew. Certainly appreciate you. Thanks for tapping in. My boy 901 Reds in the building from Bartlett, Tennessee. Craig Lawson in the building. Steeler Lee. What's happening, Steeler Lee? Craig, what up, homie? Dre Green in the building. What up, Dre? Thanks for tapping in. The homie Big Pun, as Big G would say, the diabolical one. Pun and Clyde are our diabolical nation members. We certainly appreciate you guys, though. Whether we agree or not, we certainly appreciate the discussion and your willingness to share your opinions so we can talk about it. Because if there's one thing for sure, we might not all agree on the tactical part of it, the X's and O's part of it, the decision-making part of it. But we all agree that we're all Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and that's what we're here for. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm repping with the hat, with the shirt and everything. Let's see. Fee in the building. Shout out, Fee. Thanks for tapping in. Good to see you here on a Wednesday afternoon. Did you bring your Stalk crew with you? Go get the Stalk crew. Tell them to hit that subscribe, thumbs up, give us a like. We definitely appreciate you being here. See you later this evening on the podcast. Not suggesting anything else. I know your boy from over there on that Big GB teasing you about to probably get mad or jealous. So I don't want to get involved in all that. Frosty Bear in the building. Shout out Frosty. What's up with you? Fee with a comment. Just jokes, but since the NFL was scripted, the refs in Vegas were. Hey, it's a lot of that right now, but that's what this NBA thing does. And, we hear this kind of stuff. Bronx, My dog just came out. I got my doorbell right there. And this is completely sidebar. My mom just left. She's been here for the past couple of weeks. My sister came to pick her up. Left her bathroom door, but my dog comes out the bathroom with a washcloth in his mouth. I don't know how he got it. I don't know. I'm sure the washcloth just wasn't sitting on the floor, but he has it. Figure it out when we're done here. But yeah, okay. Steel dog in the building. Yeah. Minka's going. I think that's a factor too. Minka kind of held that back end together more than we gave him credit for. We complained about the lack of playmaking with the, like performance and production for pay. He didn't have the production, but that's because quarterbacks were staying away from him. But there was speculation last year that Minka might have been part of the breakdown in communication. I don't know, but I think we could definitely use Minka back. We can't get him back. I hear you can't trade for the same player to come back your way in the same season, but it'll be nice to have him. Bench TJ. Frosty Dogs is. I think TJ is not earning his money right now. Frosty, certainly appreciate you, the Bear. Let's hear it. Matter of fact, shout out to my boy Curb in the building. Going back to what Frosty said, though, that's the clip I wanted to play. Mike Florio and Chris Sims were talking. They were talking specifically about TJ. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what they had to say.
Miserably, but
Garrett's a force every week right now. We're talking about Garrett almost every week, right?
And look, we got to be fair here.
Yeah.
And we're TJ Watt fans. We want him to get paid, but man, you get paid. There's an extra scrutiny, that's going to go to whether or not you're producing. Michael Parsons got paid. He's producing. Myles Garrett got paid. He's producing. TJ Watt got paid. He's not producing. And, when the entire defense is sluggish and old and not performing, and the average for the last two games, 462 yards, the last two games, both losses to the Bengals and then to the Packers. It's not Steeler football.
It's not Steeler football. TJ's not producing at the level that we anticipated him to. And that was the whole discussion, I believe, when the contract negotiations was going on. Man, we paid him. I'm a TJ fan, a huge TJ fan. Got a TJ Watt jersey sitting right here beside me. But huge fan, but TJ, we need more from you. We need more from the entire defense. Yeah. I think the Steelers make some more moves, a move or two before this trade deadline is over. Hey, Craig, that could be something, man. TJ could be tired. He could be, got a softer side now, got a little daughter and changing diapers and stuff like that. Fatherhood changes you. So I hear. Not a father, no kids. I'm just the best uncle in the world. But yeah, so let's get into the coaching aspect. That's what we was talking about. Let me take just a sip of my. But yeah, okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. I agree with Frosty's making a lot of good points today. I agree Herbig needs more snaps. Be that in place of Herbig needs more snaps. Be that in place of Highsmith or TJ getting more involved in the rotation. Nobody's doing enough in that rotation that dictates that they get a certain percentage of the snaps. If everybody got a third of the snaps or 2/3 of the snaps because you're rotating, that would be fine with me. I agree with Frosty too. Put youngsters in. We're old. Put some of the young players. I'm anxious to see Corey Trice get back, get him in there for Slay. I like Nichols over there. I think maybe your best lineup is with Jalen Ramsey at free safety, right? If Duggar works out, you can put Joey Porter on one side. Trice comes back healthy and is what we think he can be. Playing the other side with Echols in the slot. I think it could be something to that. And then you can still move Jalen Ramsey around, whether you're playing too deep. Obviously, he played back then in pass situation, but you can move him around if you're playing one deep, use him as a chess piece. All kind of different coverages you can do. There's a lot of talk about Terrell Austin and the Steelers' defense. Steelers' defense is looking really bad right now, looking a little old, looking slow. Because and I don't get into all the tape like Big G and some of the other guys do. I've got a football eye, though. I'm not breaking down tape. When I look at other teams, I look at their defenses like San Francisco. I forgot who their opponent was, but they're without Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. And those guys, one game, they lost last week to the Texans, I believe. So the week before that, which is why I picked them against the Texans last week. Defensive coordinator Robert Saleh had those guys getting after it. Backups, young guys. The Rams defense, rebuilt it. The Rams play a lot more young people. And I think that's the trend in football now. Kurt was mentioning this the other day. I think the Steelers have the highest paid defense in the NFL, not getting the production out of that defense. Other teams pay their offenses, the good teams, but that's partly because they got a lot invested in quarterback play, right? But I still think that defensively, the strategy should be to go young. I mean, you want a player at each level, right? You may want a player on the line. You're paying Cam. You're not paying Cam a lot now. He's getting older, but that guy will be Derek Harmon in the future. You pay somebody on the second level, your linebacker level, and when it's 3-4, a linebacker considered an edge is considered a linebacker. You paying TJ right now. He's not necessarily living up to that paycheck as it is right now. That means he can't get back. And you're paying Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. And then to me, you supplement young talent, young energy, young aggression in there and see these guys fly. I see other defenses flying around. When I watch the Kansas City Chiefs, not the greatest defense. They got Chris Jones and they got a nickel back. Can't think of who he is, but Spags, the defensive coordinator there, Spagnuolo, has those guys flying around. They make plays that the Steelers look a step slower. You know what I mean? Look a step slower than other teams. And I think that's part of the problem. Let's see what Frosty says. Coaching been doing same thing since 2000. I believe they've been doing not the same thing, but some aspects of the same thing. The game has changed. The Steelers need to get with the times and maybe make more change. But we did change. Kind of. We started applying more pressure. We started blitzing more. Went out and got some we thought was cover corners that could cover 1-to-1 so we could be more aggressive. The Steelers, Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, and the Steeler brass, they did that this offseason. I mean, at one time during training camp, we thought this could be a historic type defense. Historically bad, we're finding out. But yeah, the homie Curb. Teaching is a big part of coaching, and it seems like the Steelers coaching is lacking. See, Curb, I don't know if I disagree with that. I think we were ready to get rid of – shout out to the homie Tim Lyons in the building. Run Through the Jungle podcast, Cincinnati Bengals. Check out Tim and Run Through the Jungle. My boy B Dirt, everybody over there. Jay Lacey. They got some good content over there, whether you're a Bengals fan or not. Check them out. But, yeah, I was saying what Steel Dogs say, 3-4 defense needs to return. I believe they could run much more of a base 3-4 defense and not that 2-4-5, because when you think about it, that's what makes you vulnerable against the run. I mean, most downs when you're out your base and you play much more like Big G talked about yesterday, you play much more 2-4-5 personnel because you got to have because you typically you want to run at 3-4, but when you get your best players on the field, it puts you down to two defensive linemen. Those linemen typically would be Cam Hayward and Derek Harmon. You're going to have Patrick Queen, probably Peyton Wilson in the middle, soft ball linebackers with TJ and Highsmith on the edge. So I think that leaves you a little bit vulnerable to the run. We don't have run thumpers anymore because for so long we were getting beat in the past. I remember in the day we had, back in the day we had Larry Foote trying to cover Julian Edelman or Wes Welker or something like that because of the matchups. So now we got pass coverage linebackers, and we thought a pass coverage secondary. We thought we were getting guys that covered better than Mike Hilton, Arthur Millette, and some of those pieces we've had over the years, Levi Wallace. Well, I don't know how much better they actually are. John Caldwell in the building. Thanks for tapping in, John. Certainly appreciate you. Tim says, thank God for college football. World Series been great, man. No doubt, no doubt. Stayed up the night till 3 a.m. watching that game 3. Nice to see Toronto come back. And I'm rooting for Toronto, man. I'm a Dodger hater. Dodgers like the evil empire to me in baseball, man. They spend all that money. It's kind of unfair playing field in baseball with no salary cap, but that's another discussion. But yeah, man. So like I was saying, we did make changes, right? Went from being able to smash the run and getting beaten the short passing game. And now we got better against the run, not this year per se. But keep in mind, Terrell Austin, the last 3 years has had 3 top 10 defenses. He had a top 5 defense, I believe, when he was in Detroit or Cincinnati for a year. He's a qualified defensive coordinator. Now, do we always agree with the schemes and secondary? I mean, the schemes and the play calls and stuff and some of the secondary play? No, not. But we can second guess every coach after the fact. I think Mike Tomlin won't throw him under the bus. Now, this is where I'll get into Mike Tomlin. I'm a Coach Tomlin. I won't say fan. I'm a fan of the Steelers. I'm a Coach Tomlin supporter. That's what I am. He's been a good coach. And, you know, I have a different perspective, right? Because I'm an African-American male. Mike Tomlin's like less than a year older than me. Probably about 6 months, if I remember correctly. So I'm a supporter. And I know the challenges that it has been through the history in the NFL. I mean, if you never watched that, even the quarterbacks, you never watched that. It's a documentary on Netflix. No, it's on Amazon. I'm sorry, Amazon Prime, called The Evolution of the Black Quarterback. It was really difficult for a long time for African-American quarterbacks to break into the league and play quarterback. They wanted to change positions. They didn't think they had the mental acumen to run a team and all this stuff like that. So because of those historical reasons and things like that, I'm a supporter. Anytime one of these individuals gets an opportunity or in that situation, I tend to root for him. Mike Tomlin is 1-1 as far as it goes. He learned under Tony Dungy. Tony Dungy was a great coach. Tony Dungy finally got a Super Bowl. They got rid of him in Tampa. John Gruden came in the very next year and won a Super Bowl. Now, if we had a coach come in for Tomlin and do that next year, if that happened, we credit the new coach? Probably. But that means Tomlin's not a good coach. And this is where I've come to on Mike Tomlin. I think he's a good coach. I think some of his schematically X's and O's. And I'm talking strictly defense because like the title of the podcast say that if it's your side of the ball, coach, maybe it's you. Right now, the Steelers are struggling defensively. But we've seen them for years, the past 4 or 5 seasons, struggle offensively big time. And he was able to hold that team together with a good defense. We made the playoffs 4 out of the last 5 years, and our offense has been shit. You know, excuse my language, the offense has been shit. Make it to the playoffs. This year, the defense is down. Though I think it can potentially rebound. We'll see as the season goes on. Brian Flores is a great DC. And if the Steelers had that kind of operation where they fired coaches, I'm sure Brian Flores would have been a better option than keeping Terrell Austin at the time. But I like Brian Flores, but the Steelers beat Brian Flores' defense over there in Dublin. Brian Flores' defense got shredded by the Chargers last week. I mean, so it happens with all coaches. But I'm a supporter of Mike Tomlin. I say he's 1-1 because he got an opportunity. Somebody commented on one of the shows the other day, said it's the fault of the Rooney family and the Rooney rule by, well, that's why it's a rule, because we're worried more about the optics of how things look as far as that goes. I don't think Mike Tomlin's still the coach of the Steelers because he's an African-American coach. I think it's because the Rooneys view him as a good coach, and the Rooneys don't run through coaches, head coaches. How long was Chuck Noll here? How long was Bill Cowher here? It's just what they do. And Tomlin's never had a losing season. Granted, that don't get us Super Bowls, but it always has you in contention to maybe make a run because you're in the dance. So I'll say that. I think as a face and the head coach of an organization, he does an exemplary job at being that guy as everything comes to him, as supporting the organization from a cultural standpoint, not throwing players and other coaches and stuff under the bus. You don't see any Mike McDaniel moments from him. You don't see some of this other stuff you see in other situations. You don't see him wearing depression on the sideline like we did when Jason Garrett or the coach in Dallas, the last coach in Dallas, Mike was Aaron Rodgers' coach that beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl. Mike McCarthy, how they, I agree with Afton. That's what I said the other day. The Rooney Rule doesn't require anything about hiring, only that these coaches get the opportunity to be in the building for an interview. That's what the Rooney Rule is about. The Rooney Rule is not saying you have to hire a minority coach of some sort. It's saying let's give these guys a fair opportunity. That's why Brian Flores was suing the NFL, because he got the coach of the New York Giants right now is Brian Daboll, was formerly offensive coordinator for Buffalo Bills before he got the job with the Giants. He was a candidate for the job. Brian Flores was a candidate for the job. Those are the only two that matter right now as far as this goes, right? I don't remember the other candidate, but those were two of the candidates. Bill Belichick, because he has connections with the Giant organization, got a text. He was on the inside and knew they were hiring Brian Daboll. Bill Belichick goes on his phone to reach out to Brian Daboll, say congratulations on getting the job before it's even out. Old man Hoodie made a mistake, text Brian Flores. Now Brian Flores thinks he got the job, comes to find out it was Brian Daboll. So before he was even notified, Brian Flores, that he didn't get the job, and maybe before Brian Daboll even got the job, they had already decided. You know what I mean? So it's kind of necessary, this whole thing, ultimately. And it's much more prevalent now in today's culture about the DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion became a problem. But the truth of the matter is, in many situations for a long time, African Americans didn't have the opportunities afforded to other segments of the population. Let's just say that's real talk. So as it translates to football, I have no problem with the Rooney Rule. Like Afton said, it doesn't apply to hiring. But I do. This is where on Mike Tomlin, I'll support some of the narrative out there. Not that he's a bad coach. Not that the Steelers will never have a losing record under Mike Tomlin. But perhaps because it happened with Pete Carroll in Seattle, Super Bowl winner. It happened with Andy Reid in Philly. Got to Kansas City, turned that thing around with Patrick Mahomes, let's say. Also, Sean Payton in New Orleans. Sometimes maybe the message just gets old, right? And maybe a new voice, a new face is necessary. I don't know. But that could be part of it. I'll give you that much. So I'm not saying fire Tomlin. I don't think the Steelers will ever fire Tomlin. I think they could come to an amicable kind of resolution, even at the end of this season, if he wanted to step down. And keep in mind, excuse me, if Mike Tomlin steps down, he's going to have a job the next day if he wants to coach football, or he can get paid a lot of money by being a talking head on TV. One of the two things would happen. Still, dog, what you saying? Let's see what you're saying. Flores was also forced to draft Tua. True, and never wanted him. That's how the whole debacle Miami began. Still, dog, I certainly agree with you that that's a thing. Tua looked good for that first year under Mike McDaniel. Now what's Tua been doing now? Tua throwing folks under the bus. Tua's not a leader. Tua's not that guy. I bet they much rather have Justin Herbert, who they took Tua above instead of Tua right now. Tua got a contract. Tua might not be there long. I mean, he might not be long for Miami. Tim says Flores went to Minnesota with the 32nd rank. Didn't got no doubt. The Steelers last few years, I believe, was 3 years ago now. When they had Flores, that defense was as best it's been in the last 3 years. They've been top 10 every year the last 3 years. But yeah, I mean he's obviously a good coach. I'm saying good coaches have their days to get their asses handed to them too. Afton says, I can't see Tomlin in media. I can see that happening, but when you have the pressure of coaching on you, I didn't see Rex Ryan in Meter, some of those coaches like that. And when they offer you that bag, when they offer Tom million, come on, Tom, do this football, we give you $40 million a year. That changes things. So he has that kind of voice, that kind of cachet, that kind of personality that I think they would be after. He could decide what he wants to do is what I'm getting at. He would have opportunities. I don't know what that looks like on TV, but the opportunity would be there if that's what he wanted to do. But yeah, so I'm here to say I agree with perhaps messaging could get old. Maybe Tomlinism to the Steelers locker room don't hit like they used to. But you have players outside the building that come to Pittsburgh because of Tomlin. If you listen to Jalen Ramsey, he said earlier in interviews on the Pivot podcast that some of the stuff Mike T says, Coach T says, I write it down because he has aspirations of being a high school football coach when he's done with his playing career. He wants to get into coaching. So, and he said he got a lot of nuggets he's heard just since he's been in Steeler camp, since the summer to now, that he would take away from Mike Tomlin. So I think he's a hell of a leader of men, and I respect that aspect of him. But perhaps the voice could be getting stale. We'll see how this season plays out. I think Steelers, in spite of everything, still in first place, still with a 1.5-game lead, and we get the opportunity played a good first half against the Green Bay Packers. Good first half. Regardless of how shitty they played in the second half, they played a good first half. Got smoked the second half. This week, we play another good team, the best team in the AFC. Get that barometer, get that measuring stick. Anxious to see what that looks like in a week's time. See what changes is made. I think there will be changes made. Check out the homie Dre's comment. Ted, you remember Coach Noel was never fired. He resigned. Bill Cowher was not fired. He resigned. And Tomlin will never be fired. I agree with you, Dre. That's how the Steelers conduct business, man. That's why they're always so consistent. That's why they're the model franchise. They don't just – I believe the Browns have had like – I can't even tell you the number. How many coaches have the Browns had since they've been back? The Browns that are back since the new Browns, since the Ravens left and went to Baltimore, since the Browns left and went to Baltimore, became the Ravens. The Browns came back in 99. The Browns have had, I bet, more than 10 coaches, more, and that's just in 25 years. I agree with that, Big Pun. If they negotiate that, you can get – if Tomlin wants to keep coaching, now he has a no trade clause like he's a player, but if it's somewhere he would be willing to go and somebody would be willing to give assets, I think you get a first-round pick for Tomlin, and it's amicable. He goes with new opportunity, still get new opportunity in the first-round pick. I would never fire him. You let him resign, or you talk to him about potentially trading him to somebody who needs that coach to get over the top. I think that's a great idea, Big Pun. You know me, you and Claude don't agree on a lot, but I agree with you there, bro. The homie Curb says he would never do it, but Tomlin would be great at LSU. Curb. Never say never, but never. We've been here before, Curb. Back with the USC job was opening, man. Come on, get out of here. Curb, I'm going to get Big G3 out the car tonight, man, for saying that foolishness. Tomlin don't want to deal with even though it's becoming more pro-like, he don't want to deal with the college football and the recruiting of it all. You see how good that's working for Bill Belichick, and he was an all-time great coach, right? Bill Belichick. Check Bill Belichick's record without Tom Brady versus Mike Tomlin's record without Ben Roethlisberger, and you tell me who has a higher winning percentage. Check those numbers out. GOAT Belichick. But anyway, just to go to the Super Bowl wins, I mean, I think Chuck Noll's probably a better coach. Andy Reid's a better coach than Bill Belichick. He had Tom Brady. Tom Brady is 1-on-1, the real GOAT, with no argument GOAT, right? Like we have a discussion in basketball. Is it LeBron? Is it Michael Jordan? Like who's the GOAT? In baseball, I mean, there's a lot of different baseball players I think are up all the time. But right now, Shohei Ohtani is making a case for being among the GOATs. He puts together another 3-4 year run like he has the past 4 or 5 years. You got to put that boy up there too. Go Blue Jays still. But yeah, man, so there's no discussion of football about who's the GOAT. Tim said Bill needs to go to a nursing home. He ain't going to a nursing home, Tim. He got like a 25, 26-year-old young lady on his arm, man. He happy whether he winning or losing. He's setting that thing up to try and give to his son. Again, maybe a qualified African-American coach won't get an opportunity there because nepotism is already set up. Oh, we're going to give Bill Belichick's son the job. Just another example of how that stuff works and why the Rooney Rule is what it is, to get some of these guys in the, even though that's college, but that's how it works, right? Get some of these guys in the door to get them opportunity. Big Pun says Dungy or Tomlin. I gotta take Tomlin. I think Tony Dungy would say Tomlin. Now, he's from the Dungy tree. He learned a lot from Tony Dungy. I think Tomlin would say Dungy. Dungy would say Tomlin. Tomlin would say Dungy. I'm saying Tomlin just because more his demeanor. And I love Tony Dungy's demeanor. Nothing wrong with being that quiet leader. But I'm kind of a guy that, because I'm a loud mouth and all that stuff like that, you know, but not loud mouth. Well, maybe. But I kind of like that method of leadership, you know, inspire me, motivate me. Not with your quiet message, but with your message. You know what I mean? So I would pick Tomlin. But like I said, I bet if you ask either one of them, they pick the other one. So good question, Big Pun. Tim, definitely facts. You're talking about who the GOAT is in football. No discussion at all. But yeah, with all that being said, Curb, last comment, if we can get to it. Bill Belichick has a personality of a rock. Most of these kids today don't even remember what he did in New England. You may be right, but he did some of it, though, just back what? He last won the Super Bowl in 18? It wasn't that long ago, Curb. You in college now. You was in junior high for sure when Belichick won that 6th Super Bowl. Tim says, you are sensible loud. G is loud, erratic. Hey, Tim, I can't say I disagree. That's why I call Big G hyperbolic, man. Big G be on one all the time, man. Dre Green, Tate, do you remember that Tony Dungy played for in the same backfield as Mel Blount? Yeah, I remember, man. And that's why I say watch that documentary. I maybe knew it one time, but I was young. I wasn't watching college football. Tony Dungy was a hell of a quarterback at Minnesota. Went to the Rose Bowl at the time, took Minnesota to the Rose Bowl. Tony Dungy was like that, like all Big Ten quarterback back in the day. Came to the NFL, they wanted to move in positions. Just what I was talking about. The acumen, the mental ability to run a team. Those were narratives back in the day. He played against Warren Moon in the Rose Bowl with the University of Washington. Tony Dungy came to the league and changed positions. Warren Moon wasn't having it. He went up to Canada to play. Finally got an opportunity to play in the NFL. And Warren Moon is one of the all-time greats that's not recognized because he spent part of his career in Canada. But Warren Moon is among one of the best passers the NFL has ever seen, period. You won't get me off that. Hey, thanks, Afton, to you too. See you at the pregame show. Definitely enjoy the rest of your trip. We'll see you when it's time this weekend. And if you're available, see you tonight because we got out of here. We will be having the, like I said already, Smash the Grass, the great debate. Now I got ammo to get Curb thrown out the car tonight. So I'm going to tell Big G Curb we're here talking about, man. But yeah, Smash the Gas tonight. The big Curb and Big G debate. And this should be, I'm just going to lead it, let them have at it. And when I got to pump the brake sign, noise, sound effect, I'm going to hit it so I can intervene to bring some order back because you know how these guys get. On Pump the Brakes tonight, we'll talk about some of the Steelers' moves. The defense is leaking. We thought the acquisition of MVS, I don't think that's enough. He didn't offer enough explosiveness. He's a one-trick pony, kind of like Mike Wallace was. And I hope the Steelers make a move to wide receiver position. We talked about Mike Tomlin today, coaching questions. We'll get into more of that tonight. You'll get more than just my perspective. We'll talk about that later on Pump Your Brakes with G and Shannon. Curb and G, the great debate. And with that being said, Steeler Nation, No Law Nation, thanks everybody for tapping in. Your boy Tate for the noontime Wednesday Tate's Take. And we out. Thanks for tapping in. Peace.
Let's go.
Mamba out.
Y'all come back now. Here